education out of the community innovation, and I don't know what I'm saying right now. CCIE. I can never say it correctly. So anyway, without any further ado, please enjoy this presentation by Dr. Shillingford.
Thank you all so much, Dr. Butler and the ODI family, staff. I appreciate the opportunity to share this information with you today. Let me go ahead and pull my PowerPoint up so we can get started. All right, you should be able to see my PowerPoint right now.
You're doing really well. Just make it a full presentation, you're good to go.
There we go. All right, are we ready to go? Okay, so I'm going to be talking with you for a little while about the Not So Incredibles, marginalization of the Black family. And you're probably wondering or probably curious about the title of this presentation. So hopefully as I go through each slide, you will start to really see the connection in what I am talking about. And there are several Disney movies that I like, and The Incredibles is one of those. So what I'm going to do is use the story of The Incredibles to also talk about the Black families and marginalization that they've experienced or continue to experience, including father, mother, girls, boys, brothers, sisters. And then we'll talk a little bit about strengths of the Black family. And I'm hoping that we can have an interactive discussion towards the end of your own perception and experiences with Black families. So a little bit about The Incredibles. There are 5 family members. For this presentation, I'm only really going to focus on 4 of them. And this is based on the first Incredibles. The father they're all superheroes. The father's superpower is just super strength. He's strong, he can pick up cars, and he can throw things as far as you can think. The mother, Helen, her superpower is elasticity. The daughter, her superpower is invisibility and impact resistant. And then the son, his superpower is super speed. So to get going, I'm going to pause this. I have my recordings set up because I didn't want to have to be interrupted with commercials. So I'm going to go ahead and share this recording with you. I'm sure there's a more technological way to do this, but I will do it the way that's easiest for me. And you should be able to see my screen right now. Let me make sure that I have the volume set so you're able to see that. You're able to hear also. Okay, so let's get a little bit about The Incredibles. Dr. Butler, hear this?
India Golf 909 are transmitting in the blind guard. Disengage, repeat, disengage! Disengage, repeat, disengage!
No! Call off the missiles, I'll do anything!
Too late. 15 years too late.
Friendlies at 20 miles southwest of your position. Angels 10, track east. Disengage, over. Bye! You have to put a force field around the plane.
But you said we weren't supposed to use our powers.
I know what I said! Listen to what I'm saying now! Disengage, repeat, disengage!
Mom?
Violet! Mayday, mayday! India Golf 909er is buddy spy. Abort, abort! There are children aboard. Say again, there are children aboard this.
No!
Put a field around us now!
I've never done one that big
Violet,
before.
do it now! Abort, abort, abort! Abort, abort, abort!
Okay, I'm gonna stop it here. And if you're interested in the Incredibles movie, certainly something to keep you on your toes if you're into that type of music. But with the Incredibles family, as you can see, I mentioned their superpowers. And when we look at the Incredibles versus the Black family, there are commonalities and there are certainly differences. So the commonalities I will talk about, one of the main ones is the family has been told by authorities to hide your superpowers. So the family has been seen as criminals in the past because they've taken the role of engaging in the community, in supporting individuals who are marginalized, and they've been taking a stand, and often people have said you're trying to do the job of the authorities, of the police, and so the Incredibles family were told, you can't use your powers anymore. I need you to just move somewhere and be like all the other people who are like you. Be normal and assimilate into the system, so you do not stand out. And I'm hoping that that is something that is familiar to you if your experiences with Black families. Is that
Yes, and Dr. Shillingford?
Yeah, yes.
Stop sharing your video and share your PowerPoint.
Aha, thank you very much. There you go. All right, that's the thing with Zoom. You've got to remember to shift and shift. Okay, am I good now?
Always good.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. And so with the Black family, we're told in society, you're a fear to us. You are something that, or individuals that cause us to be uncomfortable. What you do in society, we can't handle it. You're not like us. So we need you to be like us. We would need you to calm yourselves down. We need you to fit into society where you're not standing out, where you're not causing us fear in society. Bob, who is the father in the family, has a white-collar job. He wants what's best for his family. Bob feels marginalized. He's not allowed to live up to his full potential. And that is something that I have heard young Black men and older Black men talk about, is being held down, being in jobs and positions where they feel that they're not allowed to work to their full capacity, or individuals who are less qualified than them are given positions who are higher ranks than they are qualified for. And so they're not able to live up to their full potential. In the mom's case, Helen, she's strongly focused on protecting the family, as you can see from the video clip, especially her children. Just like African-American mothers, Black mothers, they are focused on their children, they would go to bat for their children. And so Helen, similar to Black mothers, Black women, have that strong need to protect her family. Violet, the daughter, is resilient. Violet is able to, and what Violet's mom was trying to get her to do is to use her superpower to put a force field around them to protect them from the attack. Unlike Violet, however, our Black girls don't have that force field. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little while. They don't have that protective factor. As a matter of fact, society does not give them or allow for promotion of that protective factor to support our Black girls. Yet, they are resilient. And we'll talk more about that as well. Dash, who's the young son, we didn't see that part of the clip, is very fast, and he was able to get the mom and his sister out of danger by running and moving and going quickly. And like I said, getting out of that space that is uncomfortable or harmful for them. And as society, as media has shown us, our young Black men, our older Black men have not had that opportunity very often in society. In fact, whether they're standing, whether they're running, whether they're seated, whether they're laying down, they're still in danger. And so that's these are the similarities and yet the differences between Black families and The Incredibles. Back in the 80s, media tried to sort of give us a different view of the Black family. We have the Cosby Show, and you have the mother who is the lawyer, the father who is the doctor, and still there was resistance in society that, hey, you can't have, I don't know any Black family with a mother who is a doctor, a lawyer. That's unreal. A father who's a doctor, come on now. Kids all going to Ivy League school, that's what are y'all talking about? And so even when attempts were made back then to portray Black families in a more positive light, that was frowned upon as something that is just not correct, not something that is possible. And here we have, I gotta give props to our guy, Chad, the Black Panther movie, that once again, the attempt was made to show the Black family as strong, as connected, as resourceful. And there was still criticism about when I was looking to put in this presentation together. I came across criticism of the movie itself, comparing what they're doing and looking at it in such very negative lights. But still, we uphold the messages that were sent by that movie of the strong Black family sticking together and being able to be resourceful among society that's frowned upon them. And then we have the reality of the Black family. This is not made up, people. This is your Black family, a Black family that we've been able to experience in the United States. And even then, there's been criticism. Oh, you guys have Ivy League education. This is just, you guys, they're an outlier to Blacks in America. So you can't count them in your numbers. You all are still the people down there that we know about. Their children, those are just examples. And so with a real Black family being the first family, there's still been criticism of how they're represented in society and what that means for Black families in society. And so what does society really think about the power of the Black family? Let's look at some of those stereotypes that are out there. And once again, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to switch over, stop sharing here, switch over here. All right. Oh, so many buttons to press. Thank you all for your patience here. Okay, hopefully you can see this.
Amadou, non-union. Yo, pass me the rock. Yo, pass me the rock again. Pass me the rock. Well, I don't know nothing about opening no kale refinery, but I know that if you got a song in your heart and a skip in your step, gon' go far, young blood. Yo, so I know there's a killer on the loose, but I left my Ray-Bans in the car, so I'm going to go get those alone. See y'all in a few minutes. Welcome to Africa, my brother. No, do not ask what country, it doesn't matter. For the last time, I do not know where the blood diamonds are. Get out of my country. I'm not here to win. I'm here to make friends. Thank you so much, Miss White Lady, for getting me a bed. I ain't never seen one before. I used to live in the Panasonic TV box out behind the Costco. Son, you're the man of the house now. Dad's gotta go to the gas station, pick up some smokes. It's real far away. 18 years away. I'm in here for 12 counts of battery and 14 counts of possession. And when I get out of here, I'm gonna go see my daughter. I love her so much. In the water. Wait, man, I hate this shit.
All right, I'm gonna stop here. And this again is another stereotype that media has shown of the Black men in society. Let me pull my screen back here. I'm not going to enlarge it because I'm going to switch to another video in a minute. Black fathers, Black men as angry, deadbeat, unemployed, and so on. And if I was to ask for your opinion, you'd probably give me a few more words of societies, just looking at some of the movies that have been thrown out there, different descriptors that have been used to address or describe Black men and Black fathers. And oftentimes they're negative. Again, angry, deadbeat, unemployed, underemployed, having children out of wedlock and not supporting their children. And that is the message that's been sent to Black fathers and also to Black sons and Black children and Black families in general. And then we're going to move on to the Black women. What has society shown us about Black women? All right, I promise you this is the last clip I'm going to switch to. Okay, here we go.
So many times, she's bold, fierce, and unflinching, seemingly invincible Black lady.
But you got me twisted, OG. I'm always gonna eat.
In media, you can see the idea that the Black woman being this superwoman.
The caricature isn't only used to shape fictional personalities in pop culture. It's also a standard to which society holds all African American women. And it is that mindset that is passed down to African American girls and women from generation to generation. But there's a problem.
I don't think it's very sustainable at all. And if it is sustainable, if a person survives living this way, we would need to take a really good look at their health.
I think the superwoman syndrome is this suffering in silence.
Hey fam, I'm Imayan, and this Sunday on AJ Plus, we're looking at what the ramifications are when society expects Black women to be super. Two of the most popular.
Right. Okay, so this is our last clip. So here again, you have a different perception being brought to us by society of what the Black woman is all about. And I'm trying to find the, let me see, I'm having a hard time getting back to Zoom here. Oh, it's been minimized. All right, here we go. Okay, now we're back on track. All right, so the Black woman, a Black mother, being seen or portrayed in society as bold, invincible, a protector, confident, strong, empowered, angry, somebody who could take it all, face it all, fight it all, curse it all, handle it all, and do it all. And I can tell you as a Black woman that that is not true. So we'll talk a little bit about that, but these are the impressions, the stereotypes that are cast out there about Black men and Black women, Black fathers and Black mothers. Other stereotypes related to Black women, there's the mammy stereotype, and that is the perception that this woman will bear any burden because any burden that they've been given. They give, and never take. Then you have the Sapphire, the hard, angry, strict, bossy person. This is like your Olivia, who is just the bad, I almost said a word there, Dr. Butler, but you get the picture, that person who she won't take any crap from anyone, and she can stand against the toughest guy, the toughest person, and do it all. And then there's the Jezebel, overly sexualized, promiscuous, more vulnerable to sexual assaults, but less likely to be believed. More vulnerable to sexual assaults, but less likely to be believed. And then there's the matriarch, is the woman, the head of the family, single motherhood. And what the stereotypes are doing is that they're portraying Black women in a sense to some that looks alluring. It looks appealing to others. It looks like it gives the appearance of this strong person who can take it all, who can handle it all. And even within our Black families or Black communities, often it's believed that, you know, this is how I'm supposed to be. I'm not supposed to crack. I'm not supposed to smile. I'm not supposed to take any crap from anybody. I'm supposed to stand firm, not show any emotions. I'm supposed to do the job and do it well and do it wholeheartedly, unapologetically proud of who I am, the Black woman. And then you're looking at this screen here. And I'm sure you all are familiar with these 4 faces, and there are many more. These are Black boys who have been killed by individuals in communities and by police. You have 17-year-old Trayvon Martin, who was killed right here in Sanford. We have 15-year-old Jordan sitting in his car, just minding his business. We've all heard the story about Emmett Till. And then 12-year-old Tamar Rice, who was playing with a gun and was gunned down with a real gun by a real police officer, a 12-year-old. Then you've got Black girls. Now, some of these might be a little bit, oftentimes the Black boys, we're familiar with them. The Black girl story, not so much so. We have 15-year-old Dejaria, who was at a pool party. And the police came in, some individuals called in and said they're a group of Black children or people who are teenagers who are out there causing trouble, making a lot of noise, and the police came in, and she was one that they pulled by her hair, is what the report says, dragged her down by her hair, handcuffed her. You could see this police officer is sitting on her. Another one held her down by her neck. And to this day, when I've read, the Dejaria is saying that she has a hard time. She can't go to a pool anymore because of the trauma she experienced from that situation. Then we've got little 6-year-old Kaya here, who was having a temper tantrum. 6-year-old. Police was called in. The school resource officer came in, handcuffed the 6-year-old, put her in a squad car, and take her to the juvenile detention center, a 6-year-old. And I'm saying here, I'm gonna pause here to say that I'm not saying that these incidents do not happen to individuals, to children of other races, but it's more prevalent amongst Black children. And so it's important for me to highlight that. Over here, we have 11-year-old Faith, who, because of her beautiful braids, was told she couldn't come to school anymore, was expelled from school. And just like Faith, there are many others like her who've been told, because of the way you look, because of your hairstyle, you don't belong here. You can't come in here anymore. Over here, we have a group of young girls who are saying not for sale. And research shows that over 40% of domestic sex trafficking victims are Black girls. 40%, over 40% are Black girls. Over here we have young girls who have been missing. There were incidents in Washington, D.C. a couple years ago where reports were saying that there were just a whole group of young girls, hundreds of young girls who were missing. And in fact, that wasn't necessarily true. It was a much smaller number. And because the number turned out to be much smaller, the media's interest started to withdraw. There was less interest. Still, there were young Black girls missing, and still there are young Black girls missing. And literature research is showing that between 64,000 and 75,000 Black women and girls are still missing in the United States. And there's not a lot of interest in finding them. That is a problem. Black girls are told, why do you look so angry? Fix your face. I've been told, smile. And I've asked, what do you want me to smile about? I'm smiling on the inside. Black girls have been told, you're just too aggressive, not feminine enough. Just relax. You don't have to talk so loud. Bring your voice down. Or you're too dangerous. You're threatening to me. You're too ethnic. Straighten your hair a little bit. Make yourself look a little bit more white. That little, the hairstyle you got, it's not working in the workplace. It's not working in the school place. And so Black children, Black girls, Black men, Black women still find themselves in bondage, social bondage, physical bondage, emotional bondage, because of the messages that are being sent to them. So the idea of slavery, although abolished on paper, still really continues emotional slavery within the Black family because of all of those incidents that we talked about, because of all those experiences, because of all of the stereotypes that I just talked about. And the reality is, at this point, let me keep track of my time here. Because of all of those things that are happening within Black families, unlike The Incredibles, who were finally recognized for their strengths, for their contributions to society, they were given their powers again and said, come on out with us, join the police, help us clean up society, help us be an integral part of society. Black families we've not been given that welcoming at the table. So you've got weathering, and some of you probably heard this term before, and that is those early signs of health deterioration due to stress caused by racism and social economic challenges. And COVID-19 has certainly brought a lot of that out. And so our Black families are suffering, not just socially like I talked about, but also physically, health-wise, we're suffering. They're suffering because of that. You've got continuous traumatic stress disorder, and if you're not familiar with this, read up on it a little bit. I'm sure a lot of you have heard and read about post-traumatic stress disorder. Continuous traumatic stress disorder goes a little bit further. It is post-traumatic stress disorder. You experience some type of violence, whether directly or vicariously. You've been exposed to some type of stressful situation or traumatic situation, and you've gotten help for it. Post-traumatic stress disorder. Continuous traumatic stress disorder is being exposed to traumatic events like police shootings, like children who are missing, like elementary school children being arrested, like children being qualified highly for things like ADHD, like parents being told you're not interested in your children's education because you're not coming to our fancy PTA meetings, like Black men being killed and Black men being told you're not worth being at that high level at our organization. You take that job that we give you because that's where you belong. And that those continuous traumatic experiences, if not tapped into, if not supported, can have worse effects than post-traumatic stress disorder. And it affects the psychological, the physical, and the social nature of who we are as Black people. Continuous traumatic stress disorder has been shown to be contributors to learning disabilities in children. When you have kids who are constantly being made aware or exposed, even through the media, of incidents of violence against people who look like them, people who may be around their ages, that is harmful for them when they go to school and they're supposed to be learning mathematics, English, social studies, whatever it is, whatever level they're on, college level. But the trauma is still there. The experiences, the awareness of trauma is still there, and they're not tapped into. The K-12 schools, if we don't tap into those Social emotional learning itself is not going to do it. Mental health is what we need in schools. Mental health is what we need in colleges to support our students. Violent and impulsive behavior. So you see a child who is having an impulsive behavior, and the first thought is that that child is badly brought up. That child is being defiant. Something needs to be done. Somebody needs to call the police because this child doesn't know how to behave in the classroom. Continuous post-traumatic distress disorder can do those things. Insomnia, substance use, panic attack, general illness, and your immune system, immune deficiency being affected, being attacked because of the trauma that is experienced. And I'm not talking about some Black people. When I talk about Black people, I'm talking about African Americans. I'm talking about people like me who are from the Caribbean, from the West Indies. I'm talking about people who are from Africa, the countries in Africa, who are living within the United States and experiencing those different types of traumatic experiences, who are seeing it through the media. And my colleague, Dr. Rochelle Jo, and I did a study looking at Black mothers. And one term that we came up with is empathic isolation. And that is when Black mothers experience or see Black children being killed via the media, by the police. And they go out into the communities on their jobs and they start talking about how they feel. They talking about the traumatic experience, the stress that they feel because of those traumatic experience. And somebody said, don't worry, why are you worried about that? You raised your kids, right? Your children, your boy, he's fine. He's in college, he's good. Don't worry about that. Empathic isolation. That person is not willing to sit with you. Just listen to your story. Just listen to what you're saying that you're experiencing. So those of you who out there who've got Black friends, Black mothers, Black parents, and they're trying to tell you what they're experiencing, they're trying to deal with that traumatic stress. They're trying to reach out to you to help them to cope with that traumatic stress. And if your response is, your child's gonna be okay, you're not helping the situation. We've got to take a different approach. And so let's look at some of the health risks related to continuous traumatic stress that Black families have experienced. And at this point, I've left The Incredibles because they went through some stressful situations, but their stuff got fixed. You know, the CIA and all of that came in, gave them a nice new relocated house, and they can do whatever they want. You know, they're being clapped on and praised. So they're good. So The Incredibles, we've left them, or they've left us. So now I'm talking about the Black family here. African Americans, Black individuals are already at higher risk for several different health illnesses: hypertension, high blood pressure, stroke, heart disease, certain types of autoimmune disorders, breast cancer, or different types of cancer, obesity, chronic fatigue, premature birth rates, low mortality. Now we have a high incidence of Black women losing babies or losing their own lives during childbirth. And that is something that is becoming a lot more prevalent, unfortunately. Postpartum depression. All of these, we're already at high risk. And when you add on continuous traumatic stress disorder, can you imagine what that does to the body? Can you imagine what that does to the mind, to your coworkers, to your neighbors, to your friends, what they're going through, what we're going through? And I wanted to put on here sympathetic nerve and parasympathetic nerve. And this is some research. I've tried to read the research to look at the sympathetic nerve, and that is the fight or flight, the way that we respond when we're in stressful situations and we're able to get ourselves together. The parasympathetic nerve is the calming nerve, the relaxing nerve. When things are chilled, are we able to relax? When things are not, are we able to make those decisions or find those ways out to help us not have to deal with trauma? And I wanted to put this out there just in yellow, so anybody who wants to do research on this with me, this is an area that I'm really interested in looking at among Black families, particularly Black women, Black mothers. So just throwing a cheap little thrill out there. In spite of all what I've shared, the trauma that Black families go through, the incidents of violence that Black families go through, still they rise. Still we rise. And I want to read you a little bit about this poem by Maya Angelou, which is one of my favorites from her, because we often look at the experience. I don't want to say the negative experience, because I don't want it to seem like I'm saying that these are bad experiences. They are the reality of Black families. So the experiences that I've talked about, the traumatic experiences, the police shooting, they're a reality. However, I want to look at a different side, the strengths, the positives. Maya Angelou says, "You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust I rise. You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still like air I rise. Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a Black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Living behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. So despite all of what we as Black folks have endured, and by current situations in the United States, unfortunately, will continue to endure, we rise, we continue to rise. And Black families come with a cultural strength that keeps us grounded, keeps us together, provides a source of strength, of support, a kinship per se. So whether you're looking at Black families as gangs, church families, there's a kinship of support where people come together to support each other. I remember talking to a colleague not too long ago in the midst of coronavirus, and it was one of the holidays that just passed, Labor Day or Memorial Day. And she made a note that I'm going to my grandmama's house for the holidays. And I said, don't you all know that coronavirus is out there? She said, you know, we're Black people, we've got to come together. That's our thing, that's what we do, that's where we get our strength. And so Black families come together to support each other, regardless of what the family looks like. Single families, single sex, divorced families, that intergeneration comes together and we tell our stories. We tell the young children of the stories. We speak with them about past, present, and future for them. There's parental involvement that is, you know, I have to pause here because Dr. Joe and I talked recently about an article we worked on. And we were talking about schools' perception of parental involvement of Black parents. And parental involvement can mean going into the school, doing the PTA bake sales, going into the classrooms and you know, making the fancy whatever for the class. It also means sitting at home with your children, doing homework with your children, helping them with new concepts that they may not quite understand. The first one is visibility within the school. The second one is not. Then there's a third one, which is that racial socialization that oftentimes the schools don't think about. And that is those conversations that Black parents have to have with their children that we call the talk. of how to navigate a system that is structurally developed against them because of who they are, because of their skin color. And so when we talk about parental involvement, we've got to remember that it doesn't always mean that that parent has to come to the school, or if the parent doesn't come into the school, then that parent is not involved. They may be doing as much as they can at home with the child. And with this new math, I'm telling you, I'm struggling at home with the child with this new math. So you've got to give us a break here. But also remember that we have an extra task, that racial socialization, where we've got to teach our kids those things that you can't teach them at school. We have to teach them, if you're pulled over by the police, this is what you do. This is what you're supposed to do, because I want you to come home, and I want you to come home safe. These are not talks that you have at school. These are not talks that you have at college. These are not talks that we teach within college communities. These are things that Black parents have to have with their children. And so that parental involvement may look differently than the way we anticipate. For those of you who are in teacher education, it may look differently. But it doesn't mean that Black parents are not involved with their children. They certainly are. Black parents hold high expectations and high hopes for their children. In fact, in my research, I found that there's been between 2018 and 2000, I just blocked my own screen here, 2020, there's been between a 31 and 37% increase in Black students' enrollment in colleges. We've had a 75% increase between the 2000-2001 and 2015-16 academic year in the completion of bachelor's degrees among Black children, Black students. So in spite of everything that we're going through, families, children, and so on, still we rise. So there's a certain level of resilience that comes through the Black family that I would dare say that nobody else has, because we're able to move past all of those other things that people think, oh man, how do you handle those things? We're able to move past those. But I've got to remind you that all of those things, parental involvement, going to college, if we don't support our Black families in dealing with the continuous traumatic, stressful situations, it's not going to do a lot of help. We're still a few steps back. And so it's important as UCF folks, faculty, staff, students, administrators, that we step in and tap into our students, see what they need, tap into our faculty, our staff, see what they need. If you have a colleague who's talking to you about an experience in their neighborhood, in their family, don't tell them that they're going to be okay. You don't know that. You don't know what they're dealing with. Sit down, listen, have them tell you their story. And right now, what I want to do, Dr. Butler, is I want to give the audience a chance with the few minutes that we have left to just talk about the strengths that they're aware of within Black families. It may be personal, it may be observed, it may be from academic research, but just talking about strengths of Black families. So let's hear from the audience now. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so I can see what's going on. What thoughts do you all have out there about Black families?
You all can put it into the chat.
You can put it in the chat, or you can unmute and speak up. I love for folks to unmute and speak up rather than the chat, but we can do it both.
I believe they have to raise their hand, and we'll invite them into
okay.
But they can't speak at this point in time.
Okay, got you.
And Kavita, you can help me out with that. But if you have a question in the chat, or you can raise your hand and we'll invite you in. And I'm an instructor by trade, so I will, I don't have a problem calling somebody in. I see people I know by name, and so I'll do that as well. So actually, I see a name here, and I'm going to say, I know that she's going to be able to say something. And so Nina Leonard, don't get mad at me, but I'm going to allow you to talk right now. And I'm going to ask you to say something.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, how you doing, everybody? I really appreciate that presentation. A lot of the things that you were going over really resonated with me. Sometimes I think that we suffer in silence and we don't know that we're suffering because this has become so normal for us. It's been normalized. And so a lot of the things that you were talking about, we already experience, you know, just what happens in the world just because of the way that we look. And so with COVID-19 going on, with working remotely or choosing whether or not your children are going to go in person, and again, feeling that sense even more so of no control, right? And we already don't have control over the way that people perceive us or different things like that. And I definitely kind of been looking at some of those characterizations that you had of Black women. That is something that, you know, I definitely deal with, of wondering, you know, how is that perception? If I'm the person that is not afraid to speak or to say something, or, you know, do people kind of look at that a certain way? Or if I'm the person that maybe doesn't feel comfortable speaking, what way is that kind of perceived? So I think you really just covered some things that I think a lot of people need to hear. A lot of people need to know that they're not alone, and, you know, that they can share those things and they can find those, you know, groups of people that they can bond with and know that it may not be okay, but we're going to keep pushing.
Right.
So I really just thank you.
Thank you, Nina.
Thanks. So I'm going to call, I gave you a little bit of a heads up, Shonda.
That wasn't a whole lot, Shonda.
Shonda, can I force you to say something? All right, Shonda said no. So I'm gonna go to, here it is. Barbara Thompson, my co-worker. Here we go.
Hi, Dr. Shillingford. First off, thank you. Wonderful, wonderful presentation.
You're welcome, Barbara.
I think there were so many things that got me thinking, but I especially enjoyed your conversation around how we look at the involvement of parents. That is such an important point. And I think there's so much judgment around that in terms of, if I don't see you at the PTA meeting, then you're not involved in your children's lives, but there's a ... and that means you're not a good parent. There's so much judgment about that. And so your conversation around stepping back and really saying, where am I judging here? There's so many different ways to be involved. So I really appreciated that conversation. Anything you want to add to that, I would love to listen to it, because I think that's an area we really need to step back from and take a look and see how we're stereotyping around that.
Right, right. And it's definitely an area that, you know, we need to do some educating within the school system of how to engage parents and how to make Black parents feel welcome within the school setting. That's definitely something that's missing. So if I'm not able to come to a PTA, I still want to hear from you. I don't want you to write me off as the bad parent or the main parent or the uninvolved parent. I'd still want you to talk with me, communicate with me. If it means sending me an email, whatever it is, but definitely that is something that I would love to chat with teacher education or any of the programs that are related to K-12 schools. Definitely have that conversation with them.
Cool. So you have a question from Bianca Anderson, and I asked her if she wants to come in. We'll see, but she asked this: do you foresee a shift in the perception of the Black family in the near future, especially considering the current movement we're seeing happening in society today?
Bianca, honestly, that I would want to say yes, but right now I see a downward shift, unfortunately. And I say that because I'm looking at the political climate that we have right now. And over the next month or so, that may be a huge indicator of which way I could answer your question. Just by the experiences we've had so far. And I don't want to go into any political issues right now, but the platform that we have, the climate right now, has not been one that's been safe for Black families. And so that is a great determinant of what the Black family is going to look like. I will say, because of what's been going on with racial unrest, we've had a lot more awareness of struggles that Blacks and Browns have been experiencing. We've had a lot more of individuals come out and be vocal and be advocates and allies for Black families. So I'm hopeful in that light that, in spite of anything else, political parties, whatever, that our advocates continue to do that. Those who have a voice in places that can make a difference within the educational setting, within the criminal justice department, within the police department, can continue to use their voices to make a difference to support Black families. And I think if we are able to have those advocates continue to voice their concern and voice a need for change, then we will see something positive happening. But we as Black communities, we can't do it. We can't do it ourselves. We need allyship and we need support to do it. Thank you for your question, Bianca.
Anything further, Bianca? I know that you came on. I saw your mic unmute, so I don't know if you want to share or add anything more to that.
Thank you, Dr. Butler and Dr. Schillingford. Appreciate the thoughtful response. But I guess my main goal behind asking that question is because we are seeing that shift, and people recognizing how deep the systemic racism goes and just how big of a part it's playing in our society, that we are having more allies step forward and we are having more support. So I was just curious if you thought, anytime, hopefully in the near future, if that would be different. But I definitely understand that, obviously we still have a long way to go, and it can't be the expectation for, the Black community to carry that movement forward.
Yeah. Change takes time, and change takes time over a process. And so part of the process is being patient and enduring. And so if we're able to stick with it, continue with that drive and that motivation that we've had, both as communities, Black and Brown communities, as well as allies, then there is hope that there can be change. But if we start flip-flopping, like, oh, it's useless, why are we doing what we're doing, then we start to fall back. If we hang strong, and I've heard folks, talk about this is the longest that they've seen this type of protests and advocacy for systemic change in the United States. And that is actually, to me, a positive thing. When there's consistency, when there are folks who are continually advocating for change, then hopefully, Bianca, we can see some positive things happening. Unfortunately, though, we do have systems in place that are greater than some of our voices. And as long as ideologies remain within the United States the way they are, we may see small changes, but the bigger picture may take a very long time.
So let me ask you a quick question. We've got about 2 minutes left. So,
and I have one more slide that I want to share before I jump off.
Or start sharing this slide. I'm going to ask you this question. And so the question is this, you talked about there being a connection with video and movies and folks like Black Panther and The Incredibles. How important is it to kind of take it a step further than just what maybe the movie makers were trying to have you understand, and also to give you an opportunity to kind of see yourself or to kind of process yourself through some of these Hollywood portrayals?
Okay, ask me a question one more time.
So how do you see yourself watching these text movies? Like, you just took The Incredibles and you took concepts and you put it together. How would you share that with someone to kind of be able to process through what they're going through in life?
So I use movies a lot in my classrooms, in class. I use that because the reality is, I'm in the counselor education program. Most of our counseling students are white young females. Most of them, my experience is sometimes when they go into urban education settings, whether it's for mental health, school counseling, they are just surprised by what they see by the population, and they're not ready to support Black and brown families. So I use movies in my classrooms that they're familiar with, and we talk about what that means from a lens of diversity and multiculturalism. So I try to infuse multiculturalism within all of my courses and make it an integral part so that students are constantly aware. One, we talk about power, we talk about privilege, we talk about, from your own model, marginalization as well as privilege. So if you're a marginalized counselor, for example, and you have a client who is, or you are a privileged counselor, you have a client who's a marginalized client, what do you think the client sees when they see you? If you're a white person and you go into, let's say you're in your medicine, you go in to see a Black patient, what does your presence bring to the table, bring to the patient's mind? And so using movies to have students really take a critical view of society's perception of Black individuals, Black families, stereotypes, and then we try to deconstruct those stereotypes, and we put it in the context of, for us, our discipline, which is counseling. And so that's something I would encourage other faculty in different disciplines to do. You can certainly use movies and make it be something that's part of your discipline. Deconstruct it. Be bold enough to ask those types of questions. You are a this, and with my students, you're a white female. You have a Black client come to you. What do you think the client sees? The client sees a white person who has who stands behind a history of oppression of Black and brown people. That's most likely what the client sees. What are you going to do about it? Well, I don't know. Well, let's think about what you need to do about it. And so we have those open dialogues, open discussions about how to support individuals that we work with. And so I encourage my faculty members to do some, these types of things. And if you need help, I'm available. Let me know. I will help.
So I stopped you from showing your slide, so go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to sort of wrap up by saying the history within the United States is that the message that's been sent is, you're not good enough to sit at our table, but you're good enough to serve. And so from a UCF standpoint, some of the thoughts that I want to leave with UCF is recognize that there's a problem, there's a racial problem, there's discrimination, there's prejudice, there are disparities, health, economic disparities that are rooted in racism, and that we need to address them because they affect who we are, they affect our students, they affect staff, they affect faculty. Talk about race, and I appreciate ODI having this diversity week because you all are doing just that. You're talking about race, you're opening platforms to have dialogue. Provide leadership development training for different types of faculty. And then within the institution, and I hope, I'm going to be bold and say, I'm hoping that President Cartwright can hear this, is provide visibility for Black faculty. Give us a seat at the table. Not, you got the fancy dining room set, and then they've got the little side chair that you buy at Rooms to Go. Not the side chair, but a seat at the round table. But don't just give us a seat. Give us a voice as well. So help us feel like our voice matters. What we have to say matters to the conversation around the table. Don't let me say something and then I'm ignored, and then somebody else says it and, oh, that's a great idea. I just said it. So hear my voice, hear me, see me, hear me, accept me for who I am. I am a qualified professional. So when we hire, let's try not to say we're hiring diversity hire. Oh, I've heard some faculty members who've been hired in that position, and it doesn't sit very well because a lot of times their colleagues look at them as that special project that's been brought in, that diversity hire. Or the idea of we've got so many faculty here in this department, we need some diversity, so we need to hire one or two, Black or brown people. We're not check marks. We're not a quarter. We're not a number. Hire us for the qualifications that we bring to the table. Say we need somebody who's got the skills to do this, this, and this. And Dr. So-and-so, this is why you're here, because you have the qualifications that we're looking for. You have the everything that we're looking for to be a part of the UCF family, not as a special project. And that is what I want to leave with UCF at this point. Thank you all for being part of my superpower and experience, my superpower and presentation. I think I've run out of time. I don't think we have any questions, but feel free to send me an email if anyone has any questions or thoughts thereafter. Dr. Butler, it's all yours.
No, thank you all for attending. And we have one more day of learning next week and part of this Diversity Week 2020. And so I invite you all to just continue to come and experience what we're sharing with you all. I'm excited about the podcast tomorrow at 1 o'clock with Sabrina and Stephanie. They're the SGA presidents. And so we're going to do that as well. Then next week, we have Naomi Tutu on Wednesday at 3 to 4. And we're going to be talking with some of the leaders in the different political parties here, students who are a part of the SGA, part of the Democratic and the Republican Party, who are just going to talk about the election and what's going to be coming down the pipe on November 3rd, the following week. So please join us, and thank you all for being a part of today's presentation. Dr. Shillingford, thank you for your phenomenal experiences and your expertise in sharing them all with us. And we are going to close out.
Thank you all very much. Take care and be safe.